Prossimo for Violin and Electronics is a piece from 2017. It was premiered on the 23rd of April 2017 in Graz. The whole cycle investigates some possibilities of the use of the piezoelectric contact microphone. As Fantechi writes herself, quote, "The whole cycle investigates some possibilities of the use of piezoelectric contact microphones. Due to their natural low-fidelity quality, this particular amplification makes sounds closer, giving back a peculiar perception of the sound in the space. Moreover, in these pieces, each player has a mobile piezoelectric microphone used to reinterpret some instrumental gestures, such as glissando, tapping, scraping, etc., produced by playing with the microphone directly on the instrument. This use of the piezoelectric microphone as a sort of stethoscope on the instrument emphasizes the smallest sounds, which become even more concrete and detailed. The microphone comes to be the instrument to make audible the proximity of the sound, creating a different relationship with the material and its perception in the listening process." Unquote. In Prossimo, I hear violinistic touches such as glassy harmonics and lovely intense sounds that come from great pressure being put on the bridge, almost making the sound break. Daniela produces really mesmerizing sounds that sound like tiny and really up close under the microscope. So everything becomes much more detailed. Prossimo 2 is a piece from 2018 for double bass and electronics. It was premiered on the 18th of April 2018 in Vienna. The second piece in the cycle, titled Sistema di Prossimità, it shares the basic methodology with Prossimo. Fantechi again engages the microphone to expand possibilities. You'll hear moments of idiomatic use of the bass, but you will also again hear these sounds that are made with a microphone, which sound really up close. Prossimo 3 is also from 2018 for cello and electronics. It was premiered on the 17th of December in Antwerp. And it's the third piece of the cycle, Sistema di Prossimità. Here the use of the piezo as a device to create glissando is really obvious, and what mysterious effect it produces. I found this piece ghostly and it went straight to my core. What is the new knowledge in this cycle? How does Fantechi really create that mysterious, famously difficult to bring about performer's knowledge, tacit knowledge, implicit knowledge, new knowledge? As an Orpheus-trained musician and scholar, Fantechi excels at really presenting artistic research. So she built her piezoelectric microphones herself, and building an instrument, even if that's a contact microphone, is also a process where you put something together with your hands, you try it out, you see how it sounds, you adjust your approach based on how things sound. She decided she would use mobile piezoelectric microphones. And she decided that also in the process of trial and error, experimentation. Building these microphones is actually not so hard. There are videos on YouTube that show you how to do it. And one is only €3. So I love the element of accessibility. The piezoelectric microphone that Daniela built herself is part of her research. But that is not the new part of her research. Letting that instrument, quote unquote, the piezo, engage with the violin, double bass, and cello, respectively, to serve as a guide for how that instrument is played and how that instrument sounds. That is where I think a lot of novelty lies. In effect, the piezo is the catalyst and also, to some extent, the methodology. It serves as the central point in bringing together the encounter of various components. It serves as a member of the relationship between performer and instrument by coloring the performer's way of playing their string instrument, by imitating the qualities of the piezo. It serves as a lens in bringing out piezo-like qualities in those string instruments. It opens up the performer's imagination in the direction of being inspired by what the piezo does, its amplifying qualities. So putting it all together, that interdisciplinary approach of having your own self-made microphone and searching for a sound that you want, both with the piezo and with the string instruments, and researching into the ways of what you want based on what you hear. That, I think, is cutting-edge artistic research. All the components are influencing each other in a feedback loop. That's artistic research. The first question that I ask everyone is, what drives you as a musician, and how do you engage with those ideas when you compose, perform, in your research?
Yeah, this is a really nice question. I thought that the main point is the need and the will to find your own way to be creative, to express yourself, and to find a way to, I mean, from my point of view, I'm a composer, so the most important thing is to come out with new compositions. And of course, I'm not looking really for something new. Actually, there's no new sounds, there's no new stuff. It's just about a new way of thinking about sounds, a new way of interpreting the sound material. So I was really happy to have the time of the PhD, of the doctorate, to go deeper in that and to understand also the way I was working in order to be as honest as possible in the creative process. I mean, I'm always putting myself as the first listener of my music. I can't really assume how my music will be received, will be listened at, will be understood. The only things that I can do is try to think as myself as the first listener. So something should be convincing for me at first. And of course, not any work is as convincing as the other. I mean, there's always levels, but the most you are able to go deep and to stay in the work, in the process, in the compositional process, it helps me in understanding what I'm doing and in understanding if what I'm doing is convincing enough for me and hopefully for someone else. I mean, because at the end, I guess that when you write music, the idea is that you are going to share something with someone else. So, but of course, as I say, you can never know what you're going to share actually, if what you think you're going to share is understood in the same way you're thinking. But I do things that if you are honest enough, the quality of your expression can be understood. Yeah, it's more about what I want to hear, actually, really the object of the music. How do I want to, which kind of sounds would I like to hear, and in which kind of formal structure, I say, which is a bit too much, maybe a bit too theoretical. Yeah. But when you're having a listening experience or an artistic experience in general, you always have a perception of the whole, but also of the details. Mm-hmm. And you are always, your perception is always going from the details to the whole, and vice versa. So I think that the most engaging stuff being a composer is to be aware of what you're doing, which is not always the case, because sometimes you end up writing something without being completely aware of the whole process, and maybe sometimes it's okay also. I mean, so when I was doing this project about piezoelectric microphones, I was always testing the instrument myself. Yeah. So the first part of the compositional process is always a moment of exploration of the instrument that I'm used to do by myself. And then when I have the opportunity, I'm also sharing the exploration moment with the performers that are going to play the piece. Yeah,
I had a question. So you said in your program notes that the performer has the little microphone in their hands because it's mobile, right?
Yeah.
So in the right hand for the violinist, right, where you would
Yeah.
hold the bow, and then you make the gestures, glissandos and tapping and scraping. And so do you do it like on the wood, or do you do it on the strings, or where do you do the gestures?
Mostly on the strings.
I see.
Because the most interesting part is to catch the harmonics, basically.
I see.
Which is not something that you can control perfectly. So it's always an imprecise material that you get. But for example, using for the contrabass and for the cello, there are a few gestures where the microphone is held with the left hand, and then it's placed on the string, and then some actions with the bow are done next to the piezo mic. For the violin, there's no need because it's too small. So and also maybe also because it was the first piece, so I had enough material to work with already with that kind of gestures. When we performed the whole series of the 3 pieces plus the 4th one with Schalfeld Ensemble, we were also thinking about having a volume control, because when you grab the microphone, it's a bit noisy.
I see.
So with a volume control, or the electronic performer can control the volume, it's possible to make the microphone silent when the action of taking it is done, and then or putting that back. Yeah.
How did your writing and your composing change when you heard what people are doing? So the violinist, cellist, double bassist, when you saw them in action doing the instructions that you had put in the score and everything, like how did it change in the process? Or like how was it?
There's a moment of exchange that could be quite important, and usually it brings more preciseness to the sounds that I'm thinking at, basically. Because of course of the expertise of the performers, so I can also be able to define better with them which kind of how to notate certain gestures and how precise they could be notated. I mean, how precise the sounding result can be notated, or if not, we decide together that I can just notate the gestures, knowing that the sound result won't be as precise as it could be in other gestures.
And so how did building the piezo electric microphone, how did building it change your perception of the sound that you wanted in the compositions?
How the building, you mean?
Yeah, like because you built your own microphone, so, and it is like an instrument.
Yeah.
And like in the process of building it, did you experiment what it did? And did that experimentation that comes just from the building in any way influence the way you composed?
Okay, yeah, building a contact microphone is quite straightforward because you have to solder really few stuff. I'm not a big technician in that, so it's quite easy to create a piezo mic. The only things that I came up with is to add a little part of wrap, sort of plastic film at in the half of the it's a disc, so half disc is covered with this plastic, because sometimes I want to use the metal part of the microphone, and sometimes I'm most interested in using the plastic part, which has more low sounds, and it cuts basically the highest frequencies.
It is very interesting. Wow. And so the second question, you kind of already answered a little bit, but I will say it nevertheless, in case anything else comes to your mind. So what does it mean to be a composer in your own body and in your own experience and in your own world?
It's a nice question. The idea is maybe to contribute a bit to the an artistic experience, a musical experience. It's quite uncommon that I'm performing alone, but also if I'm performing alone, I'm sharing with an audience what I'm doing, but most of the time with the people I'm working with that I'm playing with, we are building something, we are building an experience that is heard, this idea of contributing somehow.
So the last question is very simple. Is there a publication that you would recommend to the artistic research communities? And self-promotion is encouraged.
Okay. Well, there has been many books that were super interesting for me and was surprising me. Like self-promotion, I'm really proud that I was taking part to the 3rd edition of The Heart of Hardware Hacking by Nicholas Collins. I wrote, he decided to enlarge his famous book, getting different contributions from different people that he was working with. And so I wrote a small chapter about a little historical overview over the contact microphones, and that has been a very interesting part of the research, because I was digging in what happens between the 60s and the 80s, and it was really fascinating. I had a few discoveries that were really cool, and also that I was already knowing that book because it's as I said, it's the 3rd edition, so there's a second one and a first one, so it was something quite renowned. So that has been for sure a reference for me from the beginning. Then I like a lot of book by Kathy Van Eck called Between Air and Electricity. She make a sort of history of microphones and loudspeakers used as instruments. So she analyzed different studies, and also she gave an overview of what that can mean. And it's a very nice book. And then there's another book that has been quite meaningful to me, and it's called The Audible Past by Jonathan Sterner. And he is a sociologist, and there's a whole part dedicated to the stethoscope, the invention of the stethoscope in medicine, and how the adoption of the stethoscope has been important to create a different way of listening, and also to create a way of making listening a technical ability. So physician has to learn how to listen what they was listening with this kind of device that was a mediating device between their naked ear and the body of the patient. So he's speaking about a mediate form of listening, and this idea has been extremely interesting for me, because I was comparing the stethoscope to the use I was doing with these microphones, because I'm used to have them to explore the instrument, the body of the instrument. So I thought it was fascinating for me to read his historical overview, and to understand how the listening has been changed and has became a sort of technical competence that you can acquire. This means that also you can question yourself as a listener, firstly. So how do I listen to stuff? How can I frame sounds that I'm listening using an external device to listen to them, and so on and so forth. So that has been really illuminating for me.